Hello and welcome back to Telltale Books. This is my third video of Murray Leinster's short works, which were then used to create the novel The Forgotten Planet. First story was called The Mad Planet. The second story was called The Red Dust. This story is called Nightmare Planet, and it was written more than 30 years after the first two stories and published in Hugo Gernsback's Science Fiction Plus. I think I mistakenly said Imagination Science Fiction. It was published in Science Fiction Plus in June of 1953, which was a banner month for Philip K. Dick. So this is the third one. It's a novella, and the introduction in the magazine, the introduction to this story written by Gernsback, does point out that this story was written in preparation for the release of the full novel, The Forgotten Planet. And it's interesting what Leinster does here. The first two stories, written back in the 1920s, were written as a far future Earth, 30,000 years into our future. This story still takes place in the far, far future, but what Leinster does is he kind of changes things in this story to make it so that no, you're no longer on Earth. I mean, he said it was 30,000 years into the future, and things had changed in the earlier stories. Okay, still in the far, far future, but it's not on Earth. What it is that mankind has gone out into the galaxy and explored a lot of different worlds. They've found that most worlds that are like Earth have never had any kind of life. So they don't have soil that you could grow plants in and stuff like that. So what they do is they send out these seed ships into all these different planets they found that could become Earth-like if they had like basic microbes and such. Basic microbes and also fungus and insects. But they don't seed these planets with things like mammals or birds or fish, things like that. Okay, so he gives a slightly more plausible explanation of how this world came to be the way it is than what he gave for how Earth was transformed into this place with all these huge insects and fungus. Because this is an alien world, it would have an alien environment, and to introduce our biology into it, what happened is they got really big because of an alien environment. Slightly more plausible, at least in science fiction in 1953. So he explains that at the beginning of the story, but then he goes and he picks up where the story left off at the end of Red Dust, where they're in this valley where there's a stream and things are pretty much protected. Well, a hunting spider moves into the area and carries with it a sack of eggs. So she's got hundreds of young spiders attached to her abdomen in a silk web sack, and they hatch. And so now the whole area is infested with baby spiders that are highly poisonous and very aggressive, and they're out hunting for food. And they're, even the babies are a good size and can jump 2 yards. So the whole tribe realizes, after about 10 of them have been killed, the whole tribe realizes they got to get out of there. So Burrow leads them. The valley is at the bottom of a mountain, and the stream is the mountain water running down. Burrow leads them up the mountain, and this mountain is really tall. It goes way up into the clouds. He takes them all the way up, where, because up above the clouds it's a lot cooler, and the air is a little different. It's more like what human beings are used to. So the super huge insects and super huge mushrooms just can't thrive up there. The insects do blunder up there from, quite often, but they die at night. So they can't get a foothold way up there. And so the human beings find a place where they can thrive. They just have to find food because there's not a whole lot growing up there. So, interesting story, interesting twist to the whole thing. But by doing that, the three stories don't hold together so well. He kind of made a mess of the stories, but he did this because he was just going to use the whole thing as the basis for this novel, The Forgotten Planet. I'm going to assume that the novel, everything was rewritten in a way that it all hangs together a lot better and makes for a more cohesive and more interesting overall story. The Nightmare Planet also, you can see a huge difference in the style of writing. It's a lot more mature, the writing. A lot more modern, a lot more mature. I wouldn't call Murray Leinster a great writer necessarily. He wrote some great stories, but overall he was just a competent science fiction writer, and not really a great stylist. Kind of like Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov wrote some great science fiction stories, but for style, there's a lot left to be desired in the style of his writing, which a lot of people don't like about Asimov. I don't mind it. I don't mind it about Murray Leinster, but I am noticing a very definite difference in the quality of writing in Nightmare Planet as opposed to what he did in, say, The Red Dust. Even so, my favorite of the three is still The Mad Planet. I thought that was an excellent story. It was very self-contained. Leinster could have stopped with that story and moved on to other things and never done all this, but he did do all this. So next, on to The Forgotten Planet. And this is all with Roger's Cheap Old Book Club. A lot of people, I'm recording this on March 3rd, a lot of people have already finished reading The Forgotten Planet because they didn't go back and read the stories like I did. So there's a lot of people that are already preparing reviews. I saw one review already up on YouTube for The Forgotten Planet. So I got to get going and read that book. I'm hoping to put the video for the novel up within a few days of this video going up. So I got work to do and reading to do. I hope you'll try these out, at least The Forgotten Planet, if not the other short stories. And like us and subscribe to us. Come on back for more. We'll be here. And I'll see you in the next video.